Hello, everyone. How are you doing? This is Daryl Guberman, CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. The rest of the data, the pertinent data, will be found down in the description. And this video today is about China sanctions Lockheed Martin and Raytheon for Taiwan sales. QA authority Daryl Guberman says it's a big joke. It certainly is. I'm going to show you why. Business owners, my fellow citizens, maybe you don't give a damn. If you don't, just turn off the video now. It doesn't bother me, it doesn't faze me. But let me get into this. And I'm going to show you about Lockheed. I'm going to show you about Raytheon. They have had a perpetual situation of getting their data taken by China all the time. Let's continue on, and I'll get into it, and you will see. It all starts with the root cause. As a quality control guy, I'll tell you. And here you go. ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, is a private, not-for-profit, non-governmental corporation that has both federal agencies and corporations on board. I know you've heard this time and time again, but for those who are new to the channel, here we go. You have Randy Doherty in 2015. He was the chairman of the IAF, incorporated in Delaware, the International Accreditation Forum, and also he was the principal on the IAF Tax Form 990 and the vice president of the American National Crediting Board, which sat on the IAF. In 2015, he handed over leadership to Zhao Jinwu, this communist Chinese national who's been involved with our quality since 1994. Zhao Jinwu was also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services that certified the suspect lab in Wuhan, China that released the COVID virus. Okay, we're continuing. He is mandated by his country of origin, Communist China, to take your data through the China National Intelligence Law, Article Number 7. ANSI took over complete control over ANAB in 2018. You have both federal agencies and corporations on board. In 2017, Randy Doherty, then the technical advisor for ANAB, if he sent you an email, that's exactly what his title was. He was advertised as the vice president of ANAB on the Department of Homeland Security's website. There's also a gentleman, a Phil Matheson, who is the standard director for the DHS, who sat on ANSI getting a royalty payment on top of his federal salary of $262,000. A royalty payment is like a non-taxable payment. The IRS has no clue about it. We're going to continue on. There are over 10 different registrars in communist China that can issue an ANAB accredited certification, 10 of them. We discovered in 2018 that ANSI ANAB are underwriters for the IAF and ILAC. The International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation is out of Australia. The International Accreditation Forum is in the United States, incorporated in Delaware. For those of you who do not know what underwriter means, this is basically it. It is an underwriter is any party that evaluates and assumes another party's risk for a fee. So that means since Zhao Jinwu was the chairman at the time in 2017 when he was in Wuhan, China, he was the chairman of the IAF and also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services. That lab that released the COVID virus, the liability falls upon ANSI ANAB because they are underwriters for the IAF. Also sitting on ANSI is the Department of Defense. Department of Defense between 2015 and 2021, mind you, and they had their data taken 6 ways to Sunday or 7 ways to Sunday. On top of that, on a document to really solidify the whole impact of an underwriter, we have found this on a contract for the federal government, and it states that, right here, it states that ANSI ANAB is an underwriter for the International Accreditation Forum. At the time in 2018, business owners and my fellow citizens, the IAF, incorporated in Delaware, was being watched over by Communist China. And remember, he is mandated, Zhao Jinwu was mandated to take your data through the China National Intelligence Law, Article Number 7. Every one of those federal agencies that sit on ANSI has had their data taken. Also, we're going to bring this up because we have him in the wings, Mr. Christopher Wray. I've got to show you this, and then we're going to get into Raytheon and Lockheed. Christopher Wray, who in November 15th, 2022, gave a deposition to the government stating that China is a hazard for us. And he also said that TikTok, so I think TikTok has been taken out of the military, our military men and women of military telephones. Well, we looked into him further, and we discovered that the FBI was sitting on ANSI since from 2015 to 2021, while ANSI and ANAB, and you will see this, ANSI and ANAB were sitting on the IAF right over by Communist China. And remember, China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7 mandates espionage, and the FBI has had a lot of data taken. As a matter of fact, you'll find videos below because just recently the FBI found on their servers some definite cybersecurity issues, business owners. So here is Christopher Wray, and after he gives those speeches, and he says, many times he says, the whole of the Chinese society is a threat to the U.S. and Americans must step up to defend themselves. Well, here he is defending us, ladies and gentlemen, business owners. This is really what Christopher Wray looks like after he gets off camera. We have a Mr. Joe Batia. Joe Batia is the CEO of ANSI, and he said to the Association of Equipment Manufacturers in 2016. Now, mind you, you're probably reading this. Mind you, in 2015, the IAF was taken over by a communist Chinese national, given the chairmanship, okay? And he basically said, would you want to have your competitor dictate the future of how you do business? And that competitor could be somebody not just from the U.S., but somebody from China. China, a year before, had taken over the American Incorporated International Accreditation Forum, where ANSI sits as a member. Randy, in 2014, remember Randy? He was the chairman of the IF at the time, the IF Incorporated in Delaware. He was also the principal on that tax report of the IF. At the time he wrote this to us, he was also the vice president of ANAB, so he should know these things. He said an IAF MLA, which is a multilateral agreement, or MRA, a multi-regional agreement, is equivalent in accreditation to ANAB. When Joe Batia gave that speech about China and all this other stuff in 2016, we found this, that between 2015 and 2021, that ANSI and ANAB both sat on the IF board right over by Communist China. It was really unbelievable what happens here, because all of those organizations, whether it's corporations or federal agencies, China had a direct pipeline into there through the membership of ANSI and, of course, ANAB at the time. Let me just say this as well. Lockheed Martin can't keep their data together. In 2009, Lockheed Martin got hacked by China taking the F-35. In 2012, a division of United Technologies, Sikorsky Aircraft, got their data taken. In 2013, Lockheed teamed up with Bell Aircraft to make to design and develop the Bell Valor V-280 aircraft. That aircraft now has won the contract to replace the UH-60 Black Hawk. What had happened is the Black Hawk, of course, was hacked in 2012. But what happened is 2015. Lockheed Martin goes to purchase Sikorsky Aircraft. And this was in the Connecticut Mirror, Connecticut newspaper. It stated, with China's okay, Lockheed Martin to close on Sikorsky purchase. Now you read the title, it says, China sanctions Lockheed Martin Raytheon for Taiwan sales. Well, what do you want? They've already raped their technology, so they might as well put a sanction on them too. Raytheon too has had their missile systems hacked and everything else. So China, it's a big laugh. It's a funny story within this community if you have this knowledge, and that's why I'm giving it to you, business owners and my fellow citizens. And then you have Rosa DeLauro, you have the members of the congressional and senatorial delegation in Connecticut approving and condoning them working with communist China, while you have Christopher Wray over here standing up on his pedestal saying, listen, boys and girls, China's a detriment to all of the United States, yet you have the congressional and senatorial delegation in Connecticut. Should I do it? Going like this to him. No, isn't that tender? You know what? It's from typing too much, Chris. I'm sorry. Unbelievable. I don't apologize for that. I've got a trick finger. So what happened is sitting on the IAF, as I showed you, was ANSI ANAP. Also, you have Lockheed, which is an associate member. And an associate member can vote on policy. Sitting on the IAF, right over by ANSI ANAP and Lockheed, you have Pakistan and Iran. I don't say this about the people, the civilians of these two countries, but the leadership. In Pakistan, they harbored Osama bin Laden, the mastermind of 9/11. And in both countries, they admitted to harboring some of the terrorists of 9/11. So you have Lockheed Martin, an American #1 military contractor, got hacked in 2009, worked with Bell Aircraft. They just had an exposition, military exposition in China that showed both the Defiant SB-1, the Lockheed Sikorsky Boeing aircraft, and you also have the Bell Valor V-280. Those two models of the aircraft were being exposed in China already. What happened here is, in 2017, 18, 19, Miss Pamela Sale gave a deposition concerning laboratory. And the reason why I'm bringing this in is I want to show you what happened in Wuhan, China. This way it gives more solidity. It gives more oomph to those people who have stated, and you have many intelligent people saying, yes, the virus exposed itself, escaped from Wuhan. You will also discover with the information that I have here that we in the United States were very much involved with the release of that COVID. Don't let anybody kid you. The CDC, NIH have branches over in China. You know why? Very simple, because China people are expendable. Rather than working on rats and monkeys and mice, they can do human subjects. A very tender moment in a turbulent world. We have a Miss Pamela Sale, and she confessed as to how that virus escaped. And remember, ANSI and ANAB are the underwriters, which means they are fully legal and responsible for anything that took place in that laboratory. And you'll hear from Randy Doty soon about an IAF, MLA, and MRA. Well, here it is. Here's Pamela Sale. She, at the time, was the vice president of ANSI ANAB's laboratory accreditation. And this is what she said. One of the issues is that there is no commonly agreed upon set of standards that forensic laboratories, and I added these two in, bio-level 4 labs or phlebotomy labs around the country and the world have to follow. Instead, there are informal guidelines that labs can choose to follow or not to. So you have her basically confessing to the fact that you have a laboratory cert that you give them, and the basic system is out of control. That is not quality. I've got 40 plus years in quality, and that is not what she said. Quality bearing, they should not even get the certificate if they're doing an ad hoc type of inspection within those labs. And it gives more credence to those people who are saying that that virus escaped from the lab. Well, we move up a little bit and you find out that Senator Rand Paul was asking Anthony Fauci about the Wuhan lab and about gain-of-function research. And what happened is Fauci said, no, he has no idea, no clue, all the rest of that. And you have to follow the paper trail and you find out, I think it was $3.9 to $3.8 million they threw into the laboratory. Well, this came out of a Chinese newspaper, or actually a technical magazine. And this is the upcoming event, Second China-U.S. Workshop on the Challenges of Emerging Infections, Laboratory Safety, and Global Health Security. This is between May 17th and 19th, 2017, so approximately 2 years before COVID escaped the genie bottle from Wuhan, China. The very first topic for the United States is the second annual workshop in Wuhan, China. The first topic is gain-of-function research. If you go through these bullet points, you will find that they were prepping and getting ready for a pandemic. We have the actual book here. If anybody would like a copy of it, I'd gladly send it to you, 203-556-1493, or Daryl, D-A-R-Y-L, TQRS @yahoo.com. Now we're going to bring Randy out. And Randy was the vice president of ANAB at the time. He said this, so he should know. He should be cognizant of his own policy, standards and practices. He is also the chairman of the International Accreditation Forum in Delaware at this time, and also the principal on the tax report 990. This is what he said, and I'm going to put MRA in there as well so you understand this, business owners. He said that an IAF, MLA, or MRA, now remember, a multilateral agreement or multi-regional agreement, works to facilitate global trade and vision of certified once accepted everywhere. IAF, MLA, or MRA signatories are obligated to recognize certificates accredited by other IAF, MLA signatories as equivalent. So a company with an ISO 9001 certification or ISO 17025, like the laboratory was issued by Zhaojin Wu in Wuhan, China, who's coming up very shortly, that the certification is accredited by the China. So a company with an ISO 9001 or ISO 17025 certification that is accredited by the China National Accreditation Services, the IAF MLA signatory in China is equivalent to an ISO 9001 or ISO 17025 certificate accredited by ANAB. Here is Zhaojin Wu in Wuhan, China in 2017. He was the chairman of the International Accreditation Forum Incorporated in Delaware and also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services. So that means he gets a double whammy. That means ANSI represents the IAF as an underwriter, and also since this China National Accreditation Service is equivalent to ANAB, that means they're also responsible for that certification that was implemented into the laboratory. Now we go on to Raytheon and Lockheed. Raytheon sits on ANSI's board. At the time between 2015 and 2021, as I told you, ANSI sat and I showed you on the IAF. It's basically a sewage pipe from back and forth of technology. And as my friend Rich of 50 years, who's a quality professional, says, it is not hacking. It is giving our data away. Numerous times Raytheon has had their data taken from China. Yes, and during this time, there have been other cybersecurity issues. As I said before, Lockheed Martin also sits on ANSI's board. They too, as I said, from 2009, they got hacked by China, the F-35. Also, in 2013, when they were working with a Bell helicopter, possibly China had an easy in the first time around in 2019. It was a mere 4 years later in 2013, and those two aircraft that are sitting, being in an exposition in China a month or so ago, look exactly like the Defiant SB-1 and also the V-280 Valor. I'm going to leave it here. As you can see, that China sanctions will not work. Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, because they're selling stuff to Taiwan, and QA authority, Daryl Guberman, says it's a joke, and it is. The last thing I'm going to tell you is in the early 80s, when the Iranians had the hostages, okay, and there was a company that a friend of mine who used to work with, a water piping company in the United States, several of them, it's not just one, but there were several other water companies that I've heard, they made underground water piping plastic. And what they did is, Iran was about 90% of their business. So what happened when the sanctions came down to stop selling anything to Iran, what happened is, and this is why when China says that, I have to laugh. Just like when anybody says, you have sanctions on Iran, you have sanctions on China, you got Russia, all the rest of the stuff. And by the way, Russia does sit on the IF at the time we have that document, and also Ukraine does. So all this blowing up everybody is futile. It's a futile effort. But getting back to the water piping, what they would do is they would sell the pipe to England. England would sell it to Spain. Spain would sell it to France, and France would sell it to Iran. So they can say sanctions all they want. The Chinese, I don't believe that at all. I think it's a bunch of BS. But they want us, the general public, to say, oh my God, they're putting sanctions on it. It's not sanctions. You know something? It's BS. My telephone number again is 203-556-1493 or Daryl, D-A-R-Y-L, TQRS @yahoo.com. I thank you, and I hope this was a little enlightening to you, and you'll find the rest of the data down below. I thank you.